I'm sitting here with Tammy Updegrove, and we are having a very, very interesting conversation about art and its relationship to life in all kinds of ways that are very, very helpful. Tammy, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to be here showing us these beautiful pieces of art?
Well, I've been doing art for a very long time. When I was 13, I started taking professional art lessons. It was the only thing that gave me confidence in my life. I struggle with dyslexia. It's not something you grow out of, but it is something you learn to cope with.
Mm-hmm.
So my art gave me confidence like nothing else did. And my parents, I was very shy, and my parents said, look, we know somebody, why don't you go to art classes? And I took them for years and years at the Anvil Art Studio with John Smith. And he taught me how to do everything, a little bit of everything.
So you mentioned when you were 13. When did you perceive yourself as an artist, or when did that category begin to name who you are and what you do?
I started selling stuff before I graduated from high school.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, commission jobs, people's homes and their pets and then their children. So it was mostly the medium I used for that was pen and ink and then charcoals. I got very comfortable with that black and white. And then I didn't really touch paints until I was married and had the kids. And actually I started painting murals. And the reason I did that was because we took a trip to the shore, and I'm looking at all these big, beautiful murals, and I just had this weird draw to them. And
weird draw as in, I want to be able to do this kind of thing.
yes, and I even said to my husband, I want to do that. And he scoffed at me and said, you're right. But I couldn't get it out of my head. So when we came home, my kids were little, and I had them in the tub, and they're playing, and I said, okay, Mommy's gonna draw on the wall. You're not allowed to draw on the wall, but Mommy's gonna draw on the wall.
Of your home?
Yes. So I had a life-size mermaid drawn, and then the kids went to bed, and I gathered all the paint I could find in the house, which was just like little craft paints, leftover house paints, and I painted until I ran out of paint.
This is a story to remember. You did this on that night. You painted all over your walls with paint that was in the house.
Uh-huh.
And what was going on when you were doing this? What was going on inside? What was
just
coming out?
so excited, and it was going the way I wanted it to go. It was like I was meant to do it. It was a weird, awesome time. And I didn't sleep. I was so excited. The next day, I woke up and I found out information at Kutztown University for fine arts. And I decided I was going to go to college, and I was going to learn how to make a career out of it.
And you did. You went to Kutztown University?
I did, but the truth of the matter is I was already working and kids and stuff, so I could only take a couple classes at a time. And I went up to my advisor, and he said to me, it's going to take you like 10 years to get your degree. What do you want to do? And I said, well, children's books, murals, things like that. And he said, you don't need your degree. Just do it. So I thought, all righty then. And I did.
Wow, wow, wow.
So a lot of luck involved also, but it's also having that drive. And so, plus I was doing works that people, they started to know me and asked me to teach their children. So I started teaching on the side the arts to young people. And then I just kept making connection and connection and connection. And actually I showed up at the Institute one day with my portfolio, and I said, I would love to work here. And they liked what I had, and it just went from there.
You did some unique things here at the Institute that you were
did.
just talking about with Beverly. Can you tell us a little bit about the stuff that you did at the Institute?
Sure. I actually have been working as a teacher here for a number of years, and probably 12 years now, and did a lot of outreach things. I get to work with people from 102 years old going into the retirement homes through outreach, and also the toddlers. So it's really cool to be able to teach everyone a little something about art. But recently, about 3 years ago, I was able to have a one-woman show. And that show was to let people know that depression can be helped a lot by doing art. So even if you're not an artist, but you want something to control, you can control materials. You can throw paint. You can break tiles. The healing part, though, for me was like putting those tiles where I wanted them. I had control.
So you just mentioned something really important, and then you said it a little while ago, that your art is all about helping people, and depression is one of the, it's a major issue that people deal with.
It is.
Can you talk to us about art, depression, and moving in good directions?
Well, one of the things I found, I had a lot of horrible memories and self-talk. I think people can understand the self-talk. You put yourself down even when you're not hearing it. You're still doing that. You're still being unhealthy that way. So if I could get involved in like throwing paint on a giant canvas and then sitting in it and losing myself, you know, really, you're feeling the paint, you're smelling the paint, you're seeing the paint. The more senses I used to do the art, the better I felt.
So this must have been a real release of
It's my
something.
therapy.
Therapy.
It was absolutely therapy. Absolutely. And I really feel that anybody could do that. I think that's actually why the adult coloring books took off, because people can lose themselves. Now the work that I have here, this is very mindful. It takes a lot of hours. It's books that are altered. So there's cutting, there's ripping, there's gluing, then there's painting and building, and so hours and hours and hours.
Tell us about books that are altered. Can you take us right to the beginning?
Sure. A couple years ago, after my depression show, there was a show about moving the Yocum Institute to this building here. So everything.
And this is a stunning building here. This is
Oh, it is. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. But there was neat things about the old one too. We had a lot of character, but just not enough room. And so for that show, moving, it had to have moving parts, or it had to be an image about a moving thing. So one of my thoughts was taking a book, and it had a little toy bicycle in it that was attached, but I painted all around it trails, as if you're going through the woods, and you can turn the bike. So that got me thinking, and I thought, well, I'd love to do these little fantasies where we don't have COVID.
Okay.
So like you can
So
imagine
these grow
yourself.
out of COVID. This is a response to
Yeah,
COVID.
these two are. Yep, absolutely. I had a lot of time on my hands, and one of the projects was doing this. I like things that move, and even that kids can touch without it falling apart, or if it drops on the floor and it survives. So that's kind of what these are about. But I did a lot of other things too with this COVID. I taught myself how to use the computer and took intense classes because I'm really horrible with that. But what I felt was, as much as I hate doing that, I needed to get out my message. So I worked really hard, and I now have about 30 how-to videos. One is that,
Okay.
step by step all the way through. Several are on art therapy and some of the things you can do.
I've got to get this into my head, so I have to repeat it. You had a message. You figured a good way to do this is to use technology to be able to deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
You learned how to do the technology, and then since COVID, since March, you have produced 30 how-to videos.
Mm-hmm. Now they're short. Some of them are only 4 minutes long, up to 10 minutes, I would say. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That really,
Thanks.
really is
I'm
amazing.
still learning. There's still stuff I need to learn how to do to get it going even smoother. But there's somebody I actually follow on YouTube, and they say try to get 1% better every week with your technology. And so I thought, all right, I don't have to know it all. I'll pick one thing to work on, and then I'll get that. If it gets too much and I really can't figure it out, I'll put that aside and I'll move on to something else.
Okay.
Technically. So, but yeah, and it's really kind of cool because I have a son and a daughter, and they're both really proud of me. They're in their 20s, and I came from a background of not touching the computer, not liking the computer, always saying paper, paper, paper. But I knew that I had to do it if I wanted to make a difference.
Wow, wow, how wonderful.
Thanks.
Can I ask about these two pieces here?
Mm-hmm.
The swing in a tree, and we've got a fiery breathing dragon. What's going on in these two pieces?
Right, like this one's really peaceful and quiet, and I imagine that would be, maybe that's the COVID. It's terrible, but it's a dragon and it's gonna wreck your peace. But there was something also soothing about doing that, though. And I was in control of the dragon. And he's fire breathing, but you know what? He's back far enough and he's not eating anyone, and so. But it's layers mostly of paper. This is pure just paper dipped in glue and put on. And that one, the dragon itself has wire and underneath, and then some clay, and then layers and layers of paper on top of that. So it's a big process, but it's fun, and it's something you can lose yourself in.
Sure.
And I think today we all need activities that we can be in there. We can be mindful of what we're doing.
So as an artist, what are the kind of things that you have produced that would have been in your shows in terms of art, painting, sculpture, different things? What do you produce there?
Well, for years and years, I did murals.
Okay.
All over the place. That actually took off for me. I wound up going to my vet. I had a lot of animals at the time, and I said, look, I want to pay for these animals. Can we barter? And then the owner of the place said, you know what, we don't need to barter. I've always wanted murals. So I gave them a really good price. After I started doing it, I put my cards there, and I never had to advertise. People called, and it was wonderful. So most of the art that's out there in homes and residential stuff, I did exclusively for 5 years doing that. So there's hundreds.
So you do murals in people's homes.
Mm-hmm. And businesses. I did a lot of those. Now I don't do so much of that anymore. I actually had an injury after I wound up with Lyme's disease, and then so in part of my recovery, that's when I was like, I need a job that's not a mural anymore, and that's when I showed up at the Yocum Institute and they hired me to teach. So then I laid off of the big stuff until I healed and just did little stuff, little art stuff.
So as an artist, you're very versatile, and
Yeah.
you kind of go along with what's coming up within
Right.
you and with what is around you.
I really think you have to be a successful artist today. You have to be open. Don't say no to anything. Like if you want to get out there and you get offered some commission jobs, take them. You're going to learn experience also. So that is something, and then it goes from there. Later you can do whatever you want, but
Let me ask this question. What feeds your imagination? I mean, it is obvious that you have an imagination to do a lot of different things. How do you continue to nurture the imagination?
It's just how it works.
Mm.
But don't ask me to spell, because I will not be able to spell. But if someone, okay, so recently I did something for the Park Authority of Reading. They were having artists give ideas for unity and healing in the city, and mine was the one that was picked. Well, I was in the shower and I kept thinking, okay, I want to show everybody working together, and so I did a heart that is wood grains, so it looks like wood grains, and a bunch of different hands of different colors with tools, and I called it building a lovely future. So if someone gives me a theme, I just automatically get visions. That's just how I am.
So you're listening for what people are needing or wanting or what
And then
would
I
be
see
helpful,
Mhm.
and your imagination kind of wraps around that, and
Mhm.
you're able to do things with that.
Really am.
That really is interesting. When you think of yourself as an artist, what does that mean for you to be an artist? Or when you think of artists, what really is an artist? Can we talk about just maybe cerebrally a little?
Yeah.
What is an artist and what is art all about?
Well, I think when I first started out and my life was really happy, I would say, and my kids were little and babies and I was watching them, I still wanted to capture, I wanted to show the world the beauty and subtlety. So I drew a lot of hands, hand holding, children holding hands, and parents, because I knew that might strike a memory for somebody else. So art to me is who I am. It's not something I do. It is 100% who I am. So I think artists in general, maybe they are feeling that way also. But I do, everything in my life kind of shows up. Because like that was nice time and I did mostly children and animals, and that was safe and it was wonderful, and I got my meaning across and I was able to sell because people were seeing that too. Like I did a picture of daddy's feet and a little girl standing on her dad's feet, and that's all, and I sold that and I called it Dancing with Daddy because I remember doing that, and I think people can relate to that. So art was then about reflecting those memories for someone else, and I could bring it to them because that's what I can do.
It's a very interesting perspective that you say, I am art.
Yeah.
One doesn't really hear that in
Is that
such
strange?
a confident way. So you do have an internal confidence about what it means to be able to speak frankly about yourself as artist.
Mhm.
And that's a wonderful thing. Where does the confidence come from? Has it grown over time?
Oh, I
Is it
think
your
so.
audience that supports, that encourages you? The confidence is very definitely there.
Well, thanks, and I hope I don't seem like snooty about that because it's not that. To me, it is just who I am, and I want to make a difference for other people. Like, I want to make a difference for those kids who have dyslexia. I want to tell them, you know what, it's all right because you have talents that other people can't see. Your brain works differently and there's a reason. So, that's part of it. Maybe that's the thing. And I survived a suicide attempt. I survived depression. I want to make a difference for someone else.
Are you making that difference?
I hope so.
Are you seeing that you are?
I hope so. I hope so. I've had people thank me for my show, but it's not enough. Like, I really want to get it out there. I just want to try.
That's cool. I've got another question.
Yeah.
Like, who are artists, either contemporary artists or classical artists from the past, who have inspired you or been, that have influenced directions in your life? Are there people out there?
You know, it's going to sound crazy, but I have a kinship, I feel, with Vincent van Gogh. He was so tortured. His stories, his writing, he was very intelligent. He knew 6 different languages. he came from a very religious background, and then when he tried to do that, the church kind of said, hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to give all your stuff away, you're making us look bad. That's something I would do. Plus he struggled in his mind, and you know, who knows what he had, but we all know that he had mental illness that there was no help for at the time. And I feel for him. I do.
So a strong influence in your, at least in your perception of the
Yeah,
artist.
not that I paint or draw like him, but I respect him. And he kept doing it anyway. He didn't sell anything, sold one piece his whole life. But it was still who he was.
So being an artist has stick-to-itiveness attached to it.
I think so.
Yeah, wow. Another question. So we live in a kind of a tortured world. So we've been talking about some issues of depression and difficulty, and so we've got COVID that's going on, which in the United States and globally is very difficult for people, and it creates really, really difficult feelings. And then we've got issues in the United States, volatile issues that are related to racism and violence.
It's hard.
And then we're in the midst of, you know, kind of a difficult political time. What does art bring kind of on that kind of a scale for healing, and what is it that's needed from art?
You know what's really cool about art? Doesn't matter what language you are, a picture can affect everybody. So all around the world, someone can understand a smile, someone can understand empathy. So that, to me, it's a universal language. And I really feel, use the art, make it ugly if you have to for yourself, and that's okay too. It's okay if you show no one. But it's also cool if you can share a good image, like people working together.
So it's also then the audience that makes the art because they're being touched by it. It's not always in the artist to produce something intentional, but other people might see it and or hear it or watch it and be affected by it.
Yeah, follow your heart. Bring what you have to the picture, whatever that is.
Cool. Tammy, thank you for this really nice conversation. Best wishes with your artistic future.
Thanks.
You've got lots and lots of stuff going on to work
I
with.
do. Very excited.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.